found myself not caring about my appearances, what I look like, brushing my hair, brushing my teeth, to the point where I literally wouldn't shower or wash because the only thing I could think about was gambling. It was a really, really painful part of my life, you know, and I've always struggled with anxiety and depression, and I think, you know, the pit in your stomach when you wake up in the morning after a night of gambling, you know, it just made my anxiety and depression so much worse.
I never had an issue with mental health until, you know, the gambling really took over. I never even heard of anxiety. You know, I was only a young lad, and, you know, I was going to bed at night after losing all my money, you know, wishing that I wasn't going to wake up. And, you know, I've had some dark times. As a young lad, you shouldn't have to deal with that.
It was actually probably one of the loneliest and most depressing decade you could ever wish on anyone, because you go into this silent world, you go into this world where you isolate yourself from people, you go into this world where you know, family, friends, work don't become the number one priority anymore. Your brain becomes enveloped by this addiction, but makes you only really interested in what bet you've got placed or what your next bet will be.
When I started sort of losing my mind, that was down to my behaviours, and that behaviour was driven by my gambling. So once you start, your mental health starts to unravel, it then kind of compounds into sort of more sort of gambling, because this illness it's always there for you, and it will convince you that you're not losing your mind, and the only way to, you know, get things back on track is by gambling and winning.
My cousin, she got in touch with me because she actually worked for a gambling operator. And she sat me down and she said, look, if you take away the product that you were buying and just look at your activity, you know, you were gambling outside of your means or spending outside of your means, you were taking payday loans, you were using credit that you couldn't afford, you were lying to people, you were being secretive, there's mental health effects, it's affecting your family. All of those things are consistent with a gambling addiction and the same behaviours that somebody with a gambling disorder would go through.
I felt lonely and disconnected from the world. Sat opposite my doctor and I said that I'm struggling with my mental health, and this is coming from someone that thought they'd be bulletproof from it. I was always the loudest person in the room, bouncing around off the walls, and that's the kind of character that I was, but I did start to struggle. My doctor prescribed me some antidepressants that day and said that if you take these tablets, I would advise that you tell your employers. And at the time that made me feel really uncomfortable, because I thought if I go into the football club and tell them that I'm on antidepressants, there's no way that they're going to pick me to play on a Saturday afternoon in front of 10,000 people. So I never took a tablet. At the end of that season I got released, I got my comeuppance, and my career as a professional footballer was finally over, and I fully deserved it.
It really helped talking to people that had been there. It made me realise I weren't the only one. It made me realise that there is hope. After all, there are people that have got through this addiction and out the other side.